Mel.
Hello.
Well, hello, Mel. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. So where do I know Mel from? Mel is... You wanna introduce yourself there, Mel?
Mel is the statistician, the gun statistician. She was on the line with us before, like a month ago, I think.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I didn't. Well, I got so much.
She's the one that was coming up with the arrest rate, crime stats in New York and Minnesota.
Oh yeah. Thank you for the reminder. I definitely appreciate that.
Hey, Dexter, I need the address from you. If you can email me the address in the hat to you.
Okay. We'll do.
Alrighty. What's happening, people? How we doing? Y'all know what time it is. You already know. I don't even need to say it. But for those new, I will go ahead and say it. It is Dexter Sunday. Y'all know who Dexter Taylor is. Dexter Taylor is my political prisoner who is right now sitting in prison there in New York for a crime he did not commit. I always see it in a way of the Democratic Party decide to turn back to their old ways and look for a reason to put down a brother, put him on a tree and put the whip to him and use him as fodder. But, it is what it is. What's happening, Dex?
Everything is lovely, considering. I talked to my mom today, wished her happy Mother's Day.
Oh.
Talked to the ex-wife, wished her happy Mother's Day. Talked to my daughter. My mom and dad actually went over to the ex-wife's place, and they all had dinner together, so that was really nice. And other than that, man, I'm just doing my thing in the air, one day at a time. And we are gathering power. That's what we're doing.
You know what? I think we all like to hear that. We are. Yeah. Well, hopefully, every Sunday we do this. We average probably about 1,500 people. So I'm hoping that out of that 1,500 people, somebody is saying that hey, I want to send some type of letter or something to Pam Bondi or someone like that, And we also have back with us, they had to remind me, and like I said, I've got so much on my mind these days. Miss Mel is with us on today, so let's say hello to her also.
All right.
Hello.
There we go. So, you wanna go ahead and fully introduce yourself there, Miss Mel, again, or?
Yeah, I go by Pure Mel on Twitter. I work for ammo.com. I do all of their data studies, and I work with criminology, statistics, information like that. And I'm also a QA absolutist. So I'm happy to be here with you guys and Dexter.
Well, thank you for giving us your time. We definitely appreciate it. So give us your week, Dexter. What happened this week? How you doing, man?
Well, everything. It was a relatively uneventful week in here, at least. We're still on a kind of a modified lockdown. Most programs still are not running, so guys with vocational programs are still kind of stuck in their cells for most of the day. Guys with our guys who are on the GED program still stuck in their cells. The BARD prison program, that's the college program that lets guys get their associates in the large, that's running. Again, I've been going to work every day, and that's more or less kind of the way things have been here. One good news from this week is that I finally got back in touch with my friend Brian O'Shea. Brian O'Shea is a real cool guy. ex-military, does private security, big 2A advocate upstairs, obviously. And we had talked for a bit before I went inside. We'd gone back and forth on the phone, and I think I'd done an interview with him. And so just kind of on a whim, I said, it's time to try to get back in touch with Brian. So got my mom to reach out to him, and he was actually just coming in the door, and we ended up talking for like maybe an hour and a half. And he actually recorded and live streamed it. We got something like 10,000 listeners on the live stream, which I thought was amazing. So yeah, Brian O'Shea. And so hopefully we'll be doing more content from here in the near future. And he's also a great guy. He's also got a lot of strong conservative and two-way contacts. So I'm hoping we can kind of expand the circle and keep spreading the news, keep spreading the word about what's happening as far as my case and the lawless Democrats of New York State. And maybe some equally good news is that the Attorney General of New York State is kind of deeper in hot water. She's I believe subpoenas have gone out to insurance companies, the lenders, and to her, to this James herself, concerning some apparent falsehoods that she signed off on documents for properties in New York and Virginia. So I like to hear that because anything that sheds light on, again, the lawlessness and corruption of New York State Democrats is a good thing for us. We need more eyeballs on this, and people need to understand that it's not only when it comes to the Constitution that New York State is out of line, the New York State is out of line. It's also when it comes to basics like telling the truth on mortgage forms. that some New York State Democrats have a loose way with the truth and a loose way with the law. And again, the more people know that, the better.
And I have not been keeping up with that Letitia James situation. Have you been keeping up with that, Mel?
I have not, no, sir.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I have not, I'll be honest with you, I have not kept up with that at all until they show me a picture of somebody getting in the back of the car. I don't believe what, these system people tell us that's going down. Because half of the time, they'll rub each other's shoulders, and I'm like, okay. But we'll sit back. We'll sit back and wait on that. You got anything else on your case at all? Dexter, have any?
No, not yet. Not yet. No,
okay.
Not yet. No. That's just as far as I know, my legal team has filed the initial brief and appeal. They did that last month. And now we're just waiting for the next step. So that's and that's kind of the way. Government stuff, especially when it comes to appeals on criminal cases in the state of New York. That's going to be even for regular cases that aren't political like mine. You could expect that to take a while. So
okay.
It is what it is. We're just waiting. But again, that's why I'm very. That's why I'm optimistic about the DOJ, what they can do here when they start asking tough questions about equal protection under the law. And
right.
I'm also encouraged by the fact that again, the Attorney General looks like she's on her way to being a sense political force. And there's a lot of dirt. All the Democrats have a lot of dirt on them. They've been doing the dirty for a long time, so I hope for more investigations to come down and more federal indictments to come down.
Well, let's hope that happens.
Yes, sir.
We'll sit back and
Yes,
wait
sir.
until that kick off. But going forward here, we're still in prayer that somebody's going to see this, man. I just, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't believe that we are doing something. Things travel slowly. We understand that. And I just hope somebody sees it, like Rod. Rod says, positive vibes to you, Dexter. And he said, I hope everyone's having a great evening. So Rod put out a positive vibe to you. Just thought I'll hit you up. Yeah, definitely hit you up with that. So we're going into silly season again, and we've been in silly season for a little bit here, Dexter, with everything that's going on. But I just literally, while I was waiting for you to call, I read this thing, and I don't know if you got it. I don't know if it's out yet. But Donald Trump is talking about lowering the prices of prescription drugs. That's pretty much what he's saying right now. If that man pulls that off, right? If he pulls that off, he would probably go down as probably the greatest president ever. I mean, because I pay $250 for 2 medicines that I have to take every day. And that's a month's supply. And I could go up to Canada and get the same 2 for $68. That is crazy what we here in America have to pay for prescription drugs that's coming out of the same lab that they get it that goes up to Canada and every place else. It doesn't make sense, but that's what we do here.
Yes, sir. I mean the high price of we're not just getting killed with the high price of prescription drugs. We're getting killed with the high price of health care. Or not even health care, just health insurance, much less health care. I've been looking at the news wires. I didn't see that story about how he talked about lowering the price of prescription drugs. It'd be interesting to see how, the fact is that the government is very heavily involved in bringing prescription drugs to market in the first place, right? Because prescription drugs are very heavily regulated by the government. And the prices are very heavily regulated by the government. So this means to me that there's a lot the government can, there are knobs that the government can turn to help lower the prices, right? It's not the same as some other commodity that the government is less involved in, bringing to market. So, we'll see. We'll see what the plan is. Yeah.
Like I said, at the end of the day, we've got to figure something out on that. And Mel, if you got 2 cents on something, just jump right in. You don't have to wait until we shut our mouths. If you got something to say, it's a free for all a lot of times. So we'll give you the floor at any point in time. So just know that.
Yes, sir, will do. On the lowering prescription drug costs is an interesting topic just because I've read Donald Trump's original executive order, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with like type 1 diabetes and the cost of insulin for those diabetics. But essentially what he did with that first order was made it so that anyone could be eligible to get $35 insulin. It didn't matter if you had insurance or not. And but you had to go to a specific pharmacy, right? So like the closest one to my dad would have been 4 hours away. Absolutely would have been worth the drive because we're paying like $1,100 a month for Novolog right now. So, but then that was the order that was rescinded, and then it went through Congress, and now it only applies to Medicare Part D, I believe, patients, and they just and everyone jumps on that like, yay, they lowered the prices, and I'm like, they didn't do that for people who don't have insurance.
Right.
There's so many type 1 diabetics who lose limbs because they're rationing their insulin because it's so expensive.
I lost 2 toes. I know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Carl, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so there's, one of the problems I think is that I look at it this way. One thing that it might be useful to do is look at other commodities where the price keeps going down, like computer chips, like semiconductors, right? The price keep getting better and faster, and the price keeps going down. But again, we don't have the same degree of government regulation involved in computer chips as we have with prescription medicines. Now, of course, no one wants there to be a kind of free-for-all in terms of, I think no one wants, what I really mean is that, for diabetics, for example, if they're buying insulin, let's say, they need to know that, however many units of insulin really is that number of units of insulin and nothing else. And so, my question is, there's always, I'm not a libertarian, but my question is nonetheless, how can we get less government in this process and still maintain transparency so that people who want to buy these drugs know what they're getting? And it seems to me that should at least be possible. Yeah.
Well, one of your big issues is that only certain companies can manufacture insulin. Only certain companies can manufacture this drug and that drug. It closes the market so they can up the price. And that is a government regulation right there. The patent for insulin was sold for $1. The scientist who came up with it, Carl, you probably know this. He sold it for $1 because he said that he shouldn't charge people to save their lives. And the federal government came in and said, only, I think it's like Eli Lilly and like 2 other companies can manufacture insulin and market it to the American people. So that's how you wind up with this $1,100-$1,200 prescription.
Right. So for example, if they were to lift that restriction, right? I mean, and of course, they'd still be subject, whoever else manufactures insulin would be subject to the same quality and purity tests, but at the very least, other entities could manufacture that. That seems and by the way, that seems like something we could do with other drugs than insulin. It's I worked for a company some time ago. I worked for a startup company that was involved in pharmaceutical pricing formulas, right? Because it turns out that like pricing and signal is a whole. It's such a complicated legal regime that there's whole companies that just devote their time to figuring out prices and discounts and what have you. What a lot of companies, all companies that develop drugs want to recoup that initial investment. So they invest whatever amount of money in discovering a new drug and then bring it to market with all the regulatory burden. And then they set very high prices initially to recoup that cost. Okay? So then the question to be worth it for companies to investigate and develop new drugs. But at the same time, at a certain point, we want that intellectual property to at least be licensable, right? To say, okay, listen, get a license to other manufacturers so they can also make this, and set reasonable terms so you can still recoup your investment. You can still profit. You can still profit when other people make you a drug. But we have to find a way to bend this cost curve down. So, yeah.
I guess at the end of the day, just like what Trump, I was looking for that. Oh, here it is. I got it right here. So Trump put out on Twitter, he said, for many years, the world has wondered why prescription drugs and pharmaceuticals in the United States of America was much higher in price than were in any other nation, sometimes being 5 to 10 times more expensive than the same drugs manufactured in the exact same laboratory or plant by the same company. It was always difficult to explain and very embarrassing because, in fact, there were no correct or rightful answers. The pharmaceutical drug companies would say for years that it was research and development costs, and that's all of these costs, and that's all of that's all of these costs were and would be, for no reason whatsoever, borne by the suckers. That's Trump said that. The suckers of America.
Well, let's not forget too that the taxpayers are the ones paying for that research, right? So it's a revolving door of money between pharmaceutical companies and Congress. Congress approves funding for the pharmaceutical companies, and the pharmaceutical companies then maximize their profit on the drugs, and then we have lobbying, so the money's going right back into congressmen's pockets. Congressmen are making laws that favor specific companies that are going to give them the most amount of money, and it's just this revolving door, and the people that are caught in the middle are those of us who need those medications to live.
Right. Yeah, I mean, certainly it seems like if for drugs whose investigation has been funded by taxpayers, that to me there needs to be a very aggressive regime to kind of like beating down the price as quickly as possible. Because after all, why should taxpayers have to do once, they help discover the drug and then pay higher prices than people in other countries to get the benefit of it? Yeah.
So
exactly, they're hitting us every way. Yeah, they're hitting our pockets every way they can.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
That's right.
And I think that's why he goes on to say, we are going to do the right thing, something that the Democrats have fought for many years. He said, therefore, I am pleased to announce that tomorrow morning in the White House at 9 a.m., I will be signing one of the most consequential executive orders in our country's history. Prescription drugs and pharmaceutical prices will be reduced almost immediately by 30 to 80%. Okay.
And when did this tweet go out?
This was today. It came out today at 6:22 p.m. On Monday morning at 9. He said on Monday morning at 9 a.m. he will sign an executive order to reduce almost immediately. So like I said, I have two of my pills that I have to take is $200+ a month. That's I'm not counting all the other ones that I have to take that the doctors have me on and all this here type of stuff. I mean, if I told you what I paid for prescription drugs by the end of the month, you'll be sitting there going, "How do you do it?" I don't know how we do it. My wife makes it happen. But I guess I look at this and what he's saying, and then I have to go, well, why couldn't any other president do this? People, they know. It's not like if these presidents don't know that elderly people are not taking their medicine because they can't afford it. It's not like parents are not getting their medicine for their kids because they can't afford it. And if Trump could see this, everybody else could see this. But I think we go back to what Mel was saying, that these legislators are filling their that this is how they're getting rich. You know, you go up there, like you take an AOC or something like that. She goes up there on a bartender's wage, and next thing you know, she's a millionaire. How does that happen? It's
one of the best things that we could do for this country is just end lobbying, right? And audit our congressmen. Where is your money coming from?
I agree with half of that. I mean, I would say ending lobbying is tricky because at the end of the day, anyone should be able to lobby a congressman. In other words, I should be able to lobby a congressman, right? And it's difficult to write legislation that says you can only lobby a politician if you have less than a certain amount of money. But auditing people's money is a very good idea. My friends in the military, they're involved in operations and procurement. The DOT is all up in their business all the time. Like, you got too much money this year. You have too many payouts or whatever. Or there's a gift somewhere, and they'll drop in like a ton of bricks. So if military people have that, why shouldn't serving legislators have that? I just should a woman and one until they drop and come back.
Okay, we'll see you on the backside.
The caller has hung up.
All right, we're going to give Dexter a little time during our break here to go in and do what he needs to do, and then he'll call back. And that's pretty much how this works. For those who just jumping on, for those who are new here, trying to figure out what's going on, what we're doing here, this is Dexter Sunday, and what we do is we talk to Dexter Taylor while he is in prison. Those who maybe don't know, I think Carl had, hey, CJ is on. How you doing tonight, CJ? I will read your comments when Dexter get back here. Looks like we had a little bit to say about the healthcare situation. But Dexter Taylor is upstate New York. He's in prison right now. He's talking to us on a computer. That's why it kind of sounds the way that it does, because the Wi-Fi in the prisons really isn't all that good. So we're able to speak with him that way. If you want to say hi to Dexter, if you got something to say, you can put it in the comments there, and I will definitely relay that over to Dexter. We do have a guest with us tonight, and I'm glad to have her. Mel is with us on tonight also, so you will also hear her voice in the background. Carl, he'll probably jump in if he got something to say. Carl is usually in the back area. But I don't know. I've got to find out, but I'm going to push it anyway. How many hats? I have my black one on tonight. I either have my red one or my black one. It says, I stand with Dexter Taylor, with the carbon mic right here on that. And like I always tell people, these are really, really good hats. And what happens is some of this money goes to Dexter and the rest of the money pays for the hat. I don't know if Carl put that in the, I haven't checked if Carl put that in the, on Twitter or not. You can also, if you missed this here, you can also go to @TimmyChristopher /TM RevT8J for my YouTube channel too. So this is also on the YouTube. I guess I should start pushing that. I don't push it enough because, like I said, I haven't been down here in a while to play with this here thing and to do anything. Mel.
Yes, sir.
Oh, there she is. Well, while we sitting here on a break and all, again, for those who don't know, could you just go ahead and let them know? You said what you did.
Yes, I write data studies focusing on criminology and like just crime statistics, homicide rates, and I'm a 2A absolutist.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. As far as, because anytime you hear when people get in an argument, okay, and I'm gonna put it to you this way: when black and white people get into it, first thing people usually throw up is that black people are per capita blank more of the criminality of the United States. How much is that is true?
So I'll start with this. I pulled the statistics for Carl, and it's a little late. I'm kind of tired, but I believe it was 99.74% of Black Americans never commit a crime. So I think that's really what we need to say first off, because criminality is not race related, right? The level of melanin in your skin does not determine whether or not you will commit a crime in your lifetime. Crime in America is very concentrated to urban areas, and urban areas typically consist more of Black Americans than white Americans. So it's one of those statistics where people don't understand the causation of crime. It's not the skin color. There's something going on in these specific communities. If you look at the per capita rates, yes, that is true. Per capita, Black Americans commit more homicides than white Americans, but white Americans are more likely to commit suicide, far more likely than Black Americans. So it's one of those things that I've written a few articles about it, that we really just have to urge caution, because there is an issue in these specific communities in America.
Okay.
With crime rates being much, much higher. But again, over 99% of Black Americans will never commit a crime. So we can't use that to say that the racists are using it improperly, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense because I see it all the time. And I sit back and go, where are you guys getting this stuff? And usually they get it from right-wing websites that they like to throw out there to say, just like what's going on now with this so-called, I don't know where it's coming. I know where it's coming from. It's coming from a lot of these Republican influencers, with this race war thing. And there's a war on white people, and white people are fed up. There's a new word that's going around here now that I should have wrote it down, but I completely forgot it. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, just like you said, and I bring this up because I had a conversation with this guy who was talking. Oh, Dexter's back. But I had a conversation with this guy who put this thing out, and the dude actually put out that 80% of black homes, black kids don't have a father. Let me make sure you understand what I just said. He said 80% of black homes don't have a father in it. And I'm sitting here going, this dude is out his damn mind. It ruffled me so bad because I know that's a lie. I don't have any, and I've got a lot of black friends. I don't have not one that is not in the homes of their kids. But what I'm saying is we throw this crap out like that, and then you put it online and people actually believe that. That's why I asked you about that. I was going, hold on, man. I am from Memphis, Tennessee. And I know Memphis is a very, very rough place. But not every black person in Memphis is creating or is a criminal. It's just not true.
Right. And I just pulled that statistic for you real quick. So it's not 80%. In 2023, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, 44.6% of Black American children lived in a two-parent home. So that would mean 55.4%, not 80%, were in a single-parent home in 2023. Hispanics were, hang on, I'm doing the math as I go, 32% in a single-family home, and white Americans were 23% in a single-parent home.
Mm-hmm.
I would just add that, for 50 some odd, I'm sorry, would you say the number was for single parent for black folks?
54%.
So 54% is too high. I mean, that's what I would say. Separate from potsters, let's call them that, who jump online and post bogus statistics. The fact is that the numbers we have are too high. 54% to me is unacceptable. That's unacceptable. Or should be to us. And again, when we think about the reasons why these kinds of things happen, what's interesting about this situation is that it seems like a lot of the people who post these local statistics don't understand that, like, some of these. I mean, I can't speak for this particular person, Reverend Tim, who you were talking about, but it's true. A lot of these guys will post these statistics like it's a gotcha. Like it's a gotcha on black people.
Right.
The fact is that the reason why there are so many single-parent homes in America, irrespective of demographics, irrespective of ethnic demographics, the reason is very often because of the state. That is to say, we have declared a war on the family, and we declared war on fathers in this country. In this country, not just in the black community, in America. And I have a lot of friends of all colors who can tell me, who can tell you all kinds of horror stories about how they've been, shot out of their kids' lives for nothing wrong that they did. So that again, this is what I always keep coming back to. People need to start realizing that this whole, this shows that you black people are this and that won't do, because the fact is that progressives, right, and the left, or whatever you want to call them, they have it in for the family, period. Not the black family, the family. People, the people who are going around celebrating child mutilation are celebrating child mutilation, full stop. They're not making any special distinctions necessarily about the color. Like, they want that. That is their program, and so that's their program. And they want to do this to all of us, which it seems obvious that they do. Then all of us have to fight them. And it seems to me that like just about the stupidest thing we could possibly do, which is why I hear a lot of self-described conservatives doing it. The stupidest thing we could possibly do is divide our ranks in the face of the adversary. So, I mean, like I said, the numbers are the numbers, but again, this is happening to us as a nation, and we have to fight it as a nation, or else. That's all I'll say.
You got anything on that, Mel?
I wouldn't even know where to begin, trying to fix that issue, because it's an issue in my family too. It's not just one community is struggling with that.
Right.
So, I mean, where do we even begin? I think the first thing we need to do is, as women, we need to take accountability and say, I see so many women leave their husbands just because he doesn't help out, or he forgets to take out the trash, or, and they're saying now you see these female influencers saying, I left my husband because that's weaponized incompetence. And they are normalizing leaving your husband just because you are not happy. It's called walk away wife syndrome. She's just not happy, so she leaves. And as a society, we as women have forgotten that we are raising children, and these little spats. My husband drives me crazy. That's normal, but we have the same life goals, and that's what we focus on. We're both parents. We both love our kids. We know what we want for our kids. We know that we are their foundation. So we work through it. And I think every couple goes through that, but as a society, we are just too easy to throw our hands up and say, okay, we're making it too easy to just say, okay, that's enough. I'm moving on, either to someone else or to just be alone. And then the kids are suffering. They don't have that stability anymore. They don't have a mom who can take the time, and no offense to the dads, but typically it's us as mothers who are the ones reading their bedtime stories and all of that. Well, you take a man out of the home, the mom no longer has time to read the bedtime stories and to see how your day went at school and all of that. And then what happens? Your child starts getting adopted by the street, by community that will pay attention to them. And then we have issues when they get older. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
No,
I would say, sorry, Reverend.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I would just say that, of course, I agree with what I said. I would just add to it that one thing we can do. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff we can do that only we can do as citizens that the state cannot do. Okay, but one thing the state can do is this. Look, it is part of the kind of the portfolio, the rightful portfolio of powers to set the parameters for contract law. Okay, now think about the marriage contract. I mean, we call it a contract. It's supposedly a contract. Okay, but what's interesting to me is that we treat the marriage contract as a matter of law like no other contract I've ever seen or heard of. It's extraordinary. I mean, think about it. I took out a credit card, right? Well, I'm basically signing the contract because I'm going to borrow some money from, Capital One or whoever else, and I'm going to pay it back on this schedule. So I'm going to pay it back. Now, if I run up the tab on my credit card, okay, and then decide that I want to honor the contract that I signed when I signed the agreement, okay, if I do that, if I just decide to not honor my contract, well, ultimately, the credit card company can take me to court and demand to be made whole. Okay, now think about what we do with the marriage contract. The person who breaks the contract, okay, can take the wronged party to court, and the contract breaker can demand to be made whole. That's in very many jurisdictions in this country. That's a problem. And for that matter, I would say no fault divorce is a problem. Divorce per se, well, look, sometimes people are just genuinely incompatible. There's, let's say there's abuse, there's whatever. It's like, okay, we cannot live together. Okay, fair enough. But, the idea that you can just, break your contract, break your word because you want to, and then get paid for it, is a problem. And one of the things it means is that young men have been bailing out of the whole idea of marriage. They're not getting married at the same rate. Well, why? Well, why should they? What's in it for them?
Well, let me ask you.
Really? So I'm getting married, and then like if my wife wants to leave me, I lose half my stuff. It's a great deal for her.
Well, here's the problem that we have, and you know. What about those that don't get married? What about those little 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds out here, young boys just running around, stabbing, sticking themselves into these little girls, impregnating these little girls, and these little girls are out here by themselves now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is also a problem. This is something that I would say that falls a little bit more under the. I mean, there's things that the states can do there too, but here is where citizens need to really step up and come up with a game plan to try to turn around, to try to change the culture. Look, part of the problem is that again, there's a financial incentive for young women to have babies to be on their own and have babies they can't afford to raise. So the state can do something about that because that incentive, that financial incentive, comes from the state. Okay. But it's also true that the institution of marriage has come down in the world. It's not valued as much as it used to be, and that's something that fixing that is beyond the realm of mere state action, right? We have to figure out how to foment a kind of a spiritual revolution among our young people, where they start to value certain things that right now they're not being taught to. In fact, right now they're being taught to devalue. Now, don't ask me how exactly. I've only just started to kind of work through some ideas of how we might do that. But I do know that it's imperative, right? So again, the state has to stop incentivizing broken families, incentivizing illegitimacy. But what also has to happen is that ultimately, young people have to want to get married. Again, this is where the churches could play a role if the churches weren't kind of thoroughly broken as well. In so many of our neighborhoods, the churches are simply instruments for the Democratic Party. I'm talking about black folks' neighborhoods now.
Well,
that's the problem.
Yeah. I wonder, Mel, if there's any way that they can break that down to say how many kids under 18 is because I don't know if you ever saw that show on MTV where they glorified
Teen Mom.
That's the one. That's the one.
Yeah. Teen Mom. It was a show that followed. They were 16 and pregnant, and then a follow-up show where these girls got paid by Teen Mom. I mean, by MTV, and they made hundreds of thousands of dollars to be on this show. So of course they were living the high life. 16, 17, 18-year-old teen mom. But I want to touch on something that you said, Dexter, because Project 2025 had some really interesting sections in it about how to restore the family. So right now, our nation is undergoing state-funded propaganda telling little girls and little boys normalize abortions. All of this funding is going to LGBT propaganda, and this is actual propaganda. The printouts that they see in the doctor's office, things like that. And what Project 2025 said was take all of that funding and put it into resources that focus on families, right? So your kid goes to their doctor's appointment for their checkup. This is what being a parent is like. This is what being a family member, a responsible individual is like. It also took that funding and put it into parenting classes for men, funding parenting classes for fathers, trying to get fathers back into the home. And then they also recommended changing the way that we do welfare to where a man can live in the home with his family. He does not have to leave his family for them to get welfare benefits if they're below the poverty line. So Project 2025 really hit the nail on the head as far as what you're saying, redirecting the way that we receive information, the finances, the tax dollars that are going towards, just have an abortion. Teenage pregnancy is a thing, but it happens, there's always abortions or there's birth control or whatever. And it was trying to redirect all of that propaganda to say, no, be more responsible and more respectful with your body, understand what it takes to raise another human being, and be that person, like be the person that you needed when you were growing up. Because a lot of these teen moms, you see 32, 33-year-old grandmothers. It's generational at this point. Yeah. So,
You're definitely right. Hold on one second, because I've been behind a little bit on these here. Because when people write in, I definitely would try to get to. I sound like my grandson. I've been around my grandson a lot this weekend. So if I say something, trust me, it's from my grandson because it sticks in my head because I listen to him when he talks to me. But CJ had said, a little bit going back to the healthcare situation. CJ had said healthcare needs to be dismantled. Okay. Yep. Controlled by the. Wait a minute. I thought CJ. I thought the insurance company already controlled the healthcare. The healthcare to be directly considered with employee benefits. Okay. Needs to change too. She said, I think medical needs to be looked at like car insurance. Then I can shop around. Okay. Then she said, surgery centers are money makers too. Mel is 100% right. The negatives on lobby is the money laundering that flows through it. Yep. I would definitely have to agree with that. Busybody was saying that, talking about your tablet, that it's a tablet they got in jail there for you to speak on. Serious app. I'm always rocking that hat. Thank you very much, sir. Sean says, we love you, Rev. We love you back, Sean. Putting that out there. Busybody, I just put up the situation with the YouTube. I typed in Reverend Christopher YouTube and can't find it. I will put that back up there for you. Portland, Oregon. Doc said Portland, Oregon is top 10 in the nation for violent criminals. And overwhelming white is 80% to less than 1% black. The problem has nothing to do with melatonin count, but with dependence overwhelmingly and sources, shortage in sources. He's right. They divide the nuclear family. John said they divided the nuclear family. This is a war for our children. We must protect them, which is true. CJ said marriage isn't as valuable. I'm going to have to go with CJ on this one. Marriage isn't as valued as part of the attack on the family. And Mel, I think you said a little bit about that when we first got on here, when you was talking about how women are on YouTube talking about, especially black women, talking about they don't need a man. And then you got other women talking about how they can do their own thing and all this here type of stuff.
I haven't noticed a racial line there, but I've seen it from all demographics of women.
Yeah. I mean, it's that kind of thing is of course going to hit poorer demographics more. All right. People who come from families with a lot of money are able to kind of insulate themselves from the bad effects of divorce or of illegitimacy. People on the below the poverty line and below the poverty line, much less so. So yeah, it's a problem. I mean, look, here's one thing I'll say. Someone mentioned something about the nuclear family. We better stop talking about this nuclear family. The fact that the extended family is really the model that we should aspire to, because that's really the tradition that a lot of us, I think that most of us came from. It's, if we didn't grow up in it, our parents or their parents grew up in a place where you didn't just have mom and dad and the kids. You also had friends and neighbors and relatives living close by. So all of a sudden, like, childcare becomes much less of an issue because there's always someone to watch your kid. You have people around you who can take off some of the stress of married life with kids. I'm afraid that in an era of radical uncertainty, radical economic uncertainty, radical job uncertainty, if we only aim as high as as reestablishing the nuclear family, the problem is that nuclear family unit is likely to fall apart under the stress of modern life. Again, with the uncertainties, it's not like it was before when the father could go get a job at the plant or somewhere, wherever else, and really have a job for life, really have lifetime employment. It's no longer like that, and the high cost of living means that a lot of times both parents have to work. So the less you can do, the less you have to pay for child care, the better. Well, free child care is the best. And the best people to administer free child care are your relatives or people who are already in your family who already care for you and your children. So it's the extended family. In other words, we have to find better ways of caring for each other. And I would say that many of those better ways are the older ways, and we've just forgotten about it. We've done away with it or whatever. We've lost sight of some of those traditions that really helped married families survive, and that's what we have to get back to. I find it interesting that in the you started to hear that phrase a lot in the 80s, I remember, the nuclear family. And what is interesting to me is that many of the same politicians, I'm talking about politicians on the conservative side now, many of the same politicians who were talking about the nuclear family, importance of the nuclear family, also lent their support to economic policies and industrial policies that help destroy the economic stability that allows the nuclear family to thrive. So we have to get real about that too. It's like you hear a lot about globalization. Well, part of the problem with globalization is that globalization was a response by American hypercapital to tight labor markets here in the U.S. Well, what tight labor markets means is that the skilled blue collar workers had some say in things, and they couldn't get pushed around the way that big capital wanted to push them around. So something, we need to pick up our sticks and move our factories to another place where workers aren't so uppity. Okay, so the result of that was lower prices. Well, let's say it was. But the fact is everything's a trade-off. And that turned out to have been a terrible trade-off. Giving away our industrial base so that we could pay a few dollars less for goods imported from wherever, China included. If you look at all the social costs of that, well, maybe that wasn't that good a trade-off. What can we do about it now? I'm not sure, but it won't do us any harm to at least talk about it and think about it. But we have to see it with open eyes and understand what exactly has happened to us. So aside from the cultural factors, which are real, Mel alluded to some of that correctly. Okay, aside from those cultural factors, we have to look at the economic factors. That yes, a mother should be with her child, especially in the tender years. Is that economically possible in many of our cities and towns? Is that something realistic? And speaking of cities, why are so many of our cities run by real estate speculators? Why? Does it have anything to do with the high price of real estate? Well, yes, I think it does. So, I'll stop ranting, but, it's a lot to deal with.
No, it definitely is. But so
yes, sir.
The question, I mean, people always ask that question. People always say that. Well, like I said, the nuclear family and blah blah this and blah blah that. But then we come to a point to where what's the answer to this? You understand what I'm saying? How do we make sure that, number one, let's start off with the 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old girls are not on 16 and pregnant, glorifying being pregnant at that age. How do we stop that, or how do we bring it down to a reasonable level?
Well, I can tell you. I can tell you one very interesting bit of historical insight. There's an article I read. This was years ago now. It's been in print.
You kind of
it was in this magazine called.
you kind of garbled. You kind of garbled a little bit. You're a little garbled.
Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check
There
1,
we
2,
go.
3, 4, 5.
I'm digging.
Okay.
I'm digging you now.
Okay. So there's an article I read some time ago in this magazine called City Journal. And the article is entitled "How Dagger John Hughes Saved New York City's Irish." And basically, the backstory is that in the late 1800s or 1900s, when a lot of Irish people came to the United States, to save families and so on, they ended up stacking up in these kind of private neighborhoods, mostly in Lower Manhattan, and they were really at the bottom of the social ladder. Okay. They were, it was like no Irish need apply, that kind of thing. There was a lot of drunkenness. There was a lot of illegitimacy. There was a lot of violence. There was a lot of crime of all kinds. And the kids grew up, blind as well, and continued the cycle. And then an Irish clergyman named John Hughes really helped start a spiritual revolution among the city's Irish. And when I say spiritual, I mean a really religious revolution. And he went around and he rejected the progressives of the time and their insistence on merely providing calories. He said no. My people have to actually have some pride in themselves and what have you. So like young women, you have to have self-respect and not take up with men who are always in the saloon or always gamble or always doing something. Young men, you have to get your act together and so. And this was all done under a kind of religious umbrella. And as a result of this spiritual revolution, okay, within a few generations, most of the best schools in New York City were run by Irish Catholics. And not too long after that, there was an Irish Catholic in the White House. So what can we take from that? Well, one thing that we can take from that is that the government doling out calories is not going to get you anywhere. The other thing we can take from that is that religion is really important. In other words, no religion, no culture. Now,
You have 1 minute left.
That's not a thing people want to hear. But the fact is that, where else do we have a system that kind of people can decide to adhere to that points the way to something better? Mass media culture is not it. Internet culture is not it. Political culture is certainly not it. Celebrity culture is not it. It's got to be the foundation of culture, which is the same as the foundation of civilization and the foundation of a lot of things we hold dear, and that's religion. So, I just heard the woman and warning. I'm going to drop and come back.
Sounds like a deal. Appreciate you.
The caller has hung up.
All right. We are well into having a conversation here with Dexter Taylor. As you can hear from him hanging up, Dexter has to hang up. We only get him for like 35 minutes, and then he has to hang up and then call back. Dexter Taylor is in prison, upstate New York, who we are actually talking to right now. And again, we have Mel on the other end, also with Carl. He's in the background. All this stuff you see that's been tweeted out, that is Carl doing the heavy lifting. Dexter, we just sit here and talk, and that's about it. That was when I was going to ask you for another stat, and I completely forgot what it was. But it has. We looked at the front half of it a little bit on these here. Like I said, I wish we could find out what's the percentage in no matter what the race is. Just young girls, 14, 15, 16-year-olds having kids, anyone under 18. And it would be nice to know how that is actually affecting what we do, us here in America, how that's affecting the schools, what the schools have to do. But I guess we can't pull a number like that at all, right?
I mean, we can pull. I know I believe states report by like the city. So I can't remember the report I pulled. I'll try to find it for you real quick. But just as like a total in the U.S. In 2023, the latest statistics were 13 births per 1,000. That is an astronomically high number.
Wow.
13 out of every 1,000 girls aged 15 to 19 had a baby. At least one child.
Wow.
In 2023.
That is okay. Then that would, that would explain. Thank you very much. That would explain a lot. If that many young girls are having babies here in America, but that's crazy. It really is. Thank you very much. I'm so glad I got you on here today to like I said, to kind of talk about this and give us some type of understanding of where we're going. And it doesn't seem to be getting any lesser. If anything, it seems to be going up a little higher. Every so many years. That we've got these young girls having babies, and I don't know what Mel. What's the answer? What should we do? What can we do?
Dexter brought up a good point about religion. It wasn't just religion; it was the shaming, and I hate to say it, but shaming the parents into making sure that their children were being responsible, right? It's all going to start in the home. And until we can encourage people to actually parent their children. I have two teenagers. I have a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old. They have never dated. Not because I've blatantly said no, absolutely no dating. It's because
are these girls?
A boy and a girl.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I've just explained to them, I had my oldest at 19. I was in an abusive relationship. I had him at 21. And I explained to them what I went through mentally, right? And the life that they could have had I waited until I was older and, more stable and choosing a better partner. And, I'll just very blatantly tell them your frontal lobe is not developed. You are not smart enough to understand what a relationship is supposed to be like. And until you reach that point, don't settle, don't date. And they've just followed that. But we're very, we have a lot of open conversations in our household. It's something I focus a lot of my attention on them and who they're hanging out with, who their friends are, where they're at. I know that there's this stigma about being a helicopter parent. No, they're children and they make mistakes, and I don't want one of those mistakes to affect the rest of their life.
Right. So
I will helicopter parent my child.
Yeah,
there's a mutual respect and a mutual trust there. They trust me to make those decisions for them because they know that they're not smart enough to make good decisions.
Well,
I
think talking with your kids is very important. I can tell you, I have one child, my daughter, and I can tell you that even before she was born, I started to develop a game plan about how I was going to talk to this person, what kind of parent I was going to be, what kind of things I was going to emphasize, how I would, right? And then, as she was growing up, and I started to really notice some of the, put it this way, I started leaving the level. So Occupy Wall Street was 2008, 2009, something like that. So she's tiny then. But I started seeing, when I really started leaving the left, I started noticing all these things that were kind of like warning signs about what the culture had in mind for children. and how children were being propagandized and sexualized and so on and so forth. And again, I started developing a game plan, a counter-propaganda game plan. How I was going to talk to my daughter when she got older about these things. And one thing I resolved for myself is that we'd always be talking. That I would be very clear about what I thought was acceptable and not acceptable, right? And I would certainly draw bright lines, but that ultimately I would be, I wanted to be someone who she could reason with, who she could talk to, we can go back and forth. And so, I started to put that counter-propaganda game plan in place when she got old enough. And, we talk about certain things. We talk about, the ways in which boy energy and girl energy are different, and the way in which, young women mature faster, so they have to be more discerning about young men and more discerning about their company. We talk about how it's important for people for young men to figure themselves out. For young men to learn how to be gentlemen before they get big and crazy. That is important. And when she got still older, I have to talk to her about how the power to create life, the power to bring new lives into the world. That is to say, it is superpower. Right, and that only stupid people treat superpowers as if they're nothing. When my daughter was coming up, she with certain reasonable limits, she had to run up my workshop. As she got older, I introduced her to more and more tools and things like that, and I learned how to respect tools and what have you. Okay, this is a circular saw. It's not dangerous. It's that the operator has to operate safely. So you have to respect the tool, respect what it can do. And so when we talked about these other matters, I would say, think about what we talked about with tools. A tool it confers power on the user. Well, this ability to create life confers power on the user. Don't be casual with it. If you saw someone being careless with a chainsaw, you say that guy is stupid. Okay, so what do we think of people who are careless with the ability to bring new life into the world? Don't be a boring and stupid person. I was lucky that my daughter has the temperament that she has, that we got along well, and that she always, she was a good listener, and then I tried to be a good listener as well, what have you. But Crystal, Mel is quite right. It starts in the home, and even resources. Forgetting about the government for a second, even local associations, online associations of like-minded parents, like-minded adults. So some kind of support for parents that are trying to guide their kids in the right way can be hugely helpful. And at some stages, I felt like I was very alone in trying to protect my kids from a lot of what was out there. The entire culture, right, is hostile to that, right? If you say, young women should dress modestly, right, which they should, right, you're going to hear all these feminists and these social leftists reading to the riot act. Well, how dare you say that? There's in the popular culture, there's very little to kind of support parents who are trying to go the right way with their kids. So we have to support each other. And here's the good news. With the internet and social media, the fact is that we have a lot of the tools with which to kind of reach out to each other and connect and associate, network with each other. A lot of those tools are just there for the taking. We can reach out and start to use them. That's the good news. The bad news is we have to do that on the whole in an environment that is hostile to certain traditions that we think are vital. And when I say vital, I mean that in the literal sense. These traditions are life. They're life to us. The propriety of young people, right? Their judgment, their discernment, their ability to kind of control their impulses and so on and so forth. This is life. And if you take that away, what you are left with is depth and depravity and barbarism. And that goes for any children of any color anywhere in the world. So yeah, we're fighting a very serious game. It's a war, really. And so the very first thing we should do is acknowledge that we are in fact at war and go to a wartime footing, and realize that we have to figure out our communications network. Get the message to our friends on the wireless, so they can help us, or we can help them. They can reinforce us, we can reinforce them, and then take it from there.
All right, let's do this here real quick. Great conversation. Awesome. Before I go into what I was about to say, let's do this here because Sean's on here. He said don't date. He said don't date is the correct answer. So that was he said yes, be a helicopter. He said yes, be a helicopter parent. With everything, he said you could go through parenting observation court also. I don't know what that's about. And before I get to CJ, let me say this here. And I heard and I agree with both of what you guys says. But I'm going to give you my story here. Because both of my boys was raised the same way. I was somewhat, I'm like what Mel says. I was somewhat like a helicopter parent. I put my kids in every sport imaginable to keep them busy. Whatever sport that was out there, we were part of it. We was traveling. We was doing. We spent so much money on sports. It's not even funny, because I felt if I kept them out of trouble, if I kept them in sports, they would realize how important it is for them to stay out of trouble. And like I said, I raised both of my boys the same way. My oldest son right now just bought him a brand new house. Got a house way before Dad, at my age, which I was so impressed with him. Got an awesome job that he's in right now and that he does. I was lucky enough I just to be able to marry my son and his wife. I did the official everything on his wedding.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it was unbelievable, man, unbelievable. If you want to do something unbelievable special, do that. But my youngest son, again, I raised both of them the same way. All right, my oldest son went this route. My youngest son is where I have my 3 grandchildren. Okay. All 3 of those grandkids have different moms. All 3. My first grandson, Aiden, he was 17 years old. She was 16. Then my next grandson my Mason, him and his first girlfriend, and they was in high school when they got pregnant, and when they had Aiden, broke up, and then he met this other girl, and then they had my grandson Mason. They broke up, and the girl that he's with now, he met her, and that's my granddaughter. Same kids. I mean, both kids raised the exact same way. Everything we did for my oldest, we did for my youngest. We kept him out of trouble, doing the things that he's supposed to be doing, being in places, telling him how important it is to be with him and my wife and I. We've been together for 36, going on 37 years. We showed him a happy house. We showed him a house of love. We showed him everything that's supposed to be that you should be able to pick up in a house and say, that's how I want my life. I want a dad like that, and I want a woman just like my mom. It didn't happen that way. Didn't happen that way. So that's why I always ask that question. When people always say, well, it's in the home. Well, I got, to me, I'm proud. Don't get me wrong. I'm proud of my youngest son because he is a unbelievable dad to his kids. He really is. We get him every weekend, every other weekend, so many times during the day, during the week. But then I go back and I look and go, and my wife and I, sometimes we sit there and go, okay, where did we go wrong? What did we miss? Hold on. Eric, is that Eric? Eric, my wife and I have one of our 3 children that is wayward. All were raised in a loving. See this is what I'm talking about right here. This is what all was raised in a traditional Christian home. Same here. Both my boys went to church. Sometime a child can simply choose unrighteousness.
This is true.
Okay,
this is true. But I would flip it around. I mean, in other words, look. You like there will always be wayward children. That's not some new thing, right? There will always be wayward children. But nonetheless, when we say it comes from the home, it still comes from the home. Your son that went the right way, for example, right, went down the path that you approved of. Well, he came out of your home. Do you think that if you hadn't shown him a good example, he would have picked up the right example from popular culture? Of course not. Of course not. So instead of saying that well, you say, well, I had one that went right and one that went wrong. Well, yeah, you had a success in spite of the odds, because the odds are against you. We know this. The cultural odds are against us. The economic odds are against us. Political odds are against us. And nonetheless, you managed to beat those odds with one of your children. So just because wayward children can come out of good homes and do come out of good homes, wayward children, doesn't mean that good homes are not in our interest. It's obvious that at the very least, you need good homes to raise good children, to raise stable children. And we just have to understand that there are exceptions, and yes, we're not saying that there's going to be 100% success rate. I mean, let's face it, when your grandparents were growing up and my grandparents were growing up, every home wasn't perfect. Kids didn't grow up perfect. There were kids who got into crime and all kinds of stuff back then. So we're not saying that. I'm not saying that that these traditions are any guarantee of anything. We're saying that we can find we can find the clues we need to be able to raise good children at all, and to be able to raise children that have stable families at all. We can find the clues we need from looking at our traditions. But yes, there are going to be failures. There are going to be kids who hear all the right stuff and then go and do the wrong thing. You're always going to have a prodigal son. The prodigal son is a figure in Scripture for a reason, because he's kind of a universal figure. Everyone can relate to, every father can relate to the idea, at least, of a prodigal son.
Well, we all went wayward a little bit. I did. I don't know about you and Mel. I'm sure y'all was perfect.
Do, yeah.
Y'all was perfect.
I definitely did. I still am.
You still. Now, Mel, are you married now?
I am.
Okay.
I am. Yes. Sir.
How long you been married?
10 years. Coming up on 10 years.
There we go.
Congratulations.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Love.
I mean, I was easy. I was easy for my parents because I was a huge nerd growing up. So it's like, all I really wanted to do was like be with my books and my musical instruments and my whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's like I was just. I wasn't. The other side of life really didn't have a temptation for me. You know popular kid, maybe it would have been different, right? But again, look, we're not. At the end of the day, this is not a question of guarantees. We can't guarantee these things. We can't guarantee anything when human systems are concerned. But we know the kind of thing that tends to work well. We know the kind of thing that tends to work well. We know the kind of thing the kind of habits that tend to give us neighborhoods with families that are more or less stable. In fact, with families who can take up the slack for other families where things are not so stable. We know the Black American tradition of having neighborhoods where there was a lot of different people of different income groups, for example, or income tiers together. So the poor people could see, the wealthy Black family down the street and aspire to that. See the prosperous Black tradesman down the street and aspire to that. And again, one of the things that's happened is, we had a government that took some decades ago and had the bright idea to warehouse all the poor people in one place. So there's a lot to undo, and there's a lot to do. But yeah, I wouldn't say that the existence of wayward children contradicts the need for better families and more stable families. I think the more stable families we have, the more traditional families we have, the more room we have to kind of take up the slack and maybe look out for some of these wayward children and help them not go too far astray. That's another way to look at it. So
yeah, I guess I'm lucky there that I look at it and go sometimes. With the road he was on, we could have been in some serious trouble. If what I've got out of it is 3 grandkids that we all raised like a village, and we do. I mean, we raise, all the families are in it to win and to make sure that these kids come out, good. But I'm like Mel. Mel said she was kind of wayward. I was kind of, but you know what? But I never gave my parents any reason to go crazy. Only reason I went to jail is because my cousin stole the car and didn't tell me it was stolen.
Oh man!
And I got in the car.
No.
Yeah. But Eric said, I just popped in to watch for a bit. Is it going to bed, Rev T? I wish it would have met you when I lived in Minnesota. Hey, same here, my brother. You helped me understand things from a different perspective, and I have appreciated our engagement on X. God bless you and your family. God bless you too, my friend. You have a good night. But yeah, the only reason I went to jail is because my cousin stole the car. He never told me it was stolen, and till the police got us. But that's what. But other than that, I never. My parents didn't have to worry anything. I mean, the weed I smoked, I actually stole that from my dad. But anyway. That's a difference.
Everything has a past and every player has a future.
That's right.
I wanted to. Something just came to my mind as we were talking. Because you mentioned this guy who was who online who was trying to make it into a racial thing. It just occurred to me. Aside from the fact that we have a vice president who wrote a sitting vice president who wrote a book that you can go and buy off the shelf, and it can tell you about the dysfunction in his family and in his neighborhood when he was growing up. Right, there's a white guy we're talking about. I mean, the book is called The Hillbilly Elegy. Right. Aside from that, okay, I'm old enough to remember outlaw country. I mean, country music, that is. I'm old enough to remember country music singers who sang about getting in all kinds of trouble.
Right.
And if you go and look at some of the documentaries that have been made about these artists, they really did get into all kinds of trouble in real life. The guy named Johnny Paycheck, I remember from the 70s. He wrote a handful of hits. One called "The Hell with the IRS." You wrote another one called "Take This Job and Shove It." You wrote another one called "The Only Hell My Mama Ever Raised."
Mama tried.
The mama tried. Exactly. It's like she tried to turn me on to Jesus, but I turned on the devil's way. It's like he, stole a car and, went downtown and did all this and whatever and robbed the liquor store, whatever. I mean, so yeah, this is something that it's a very old story. And the waywardness of children, especially young men, is an old story. The thing is that what we want to avoid is a situation where there is where we have wayward children growing up in a wayward culture. And right now, the culture itself is wayward. We've begun to dismantle even the idea of having standards. That's really the problem. People will always violate standards. But if you do away with the standards themselves, then you've got chaos. And that's what we're moving forward. And we have to find a way to stop our motion in this direction and turn around and move back the other way. And when we've done that, it doesn't mean that there won't be children who go and do bad things, but it means that they'll be embedded in a culture that has sense enough to know right from wrong. And we'll have adults who have the courage of their convictions and who can preach what they practice. You see, a lot of upper middle class families that are stable, right, and that are successful. For some reason, they don't like some of these cultural elites don't want to say, hey, something? Yeah, actually, if you want to give yourself the best shot, you really should kind of like plan your family out, get married, settle down, what have you, because they don't preach what they practice. What we get on our end is this kind of these kind of cultural images glorifying the worst of what people do. And anyone who glorifies the worst in you is definitely not doing you a favor.
That's definitely true. So I've got to ask the obvious question, Mel. Is it soda or is it pop?
It's Coke.
It's Coke. So you're an East Coast. Dexter, is it soda or is it pop?
It's soda.
Soda.
Hey, listen, we ain't got no Canadian here, do we? Who got the Canadians? Whoa. Hang on a second now. Have your standards begun to drop, Reverend? Are you letting Canadians into the chat now? Is that what we're doing?
I know it is so. I know it is. It's been soda for me all my life.
It's soda, right? It's soda. Come on now.
Okay, all right. So I know.
Sody pop.
Soda. Well, some people say soda or seltzer water. When I go to New York, when I've been up there where you're at, Dexter, and I got a large cheese pizza, and do you want a seltzer or soda water? And I'm sitting there going, I don't know what you're talking about.
Soda water.
I don't know what you're talking about. But when I go home here in Minnesota, it's pop. Except
it's all the close to those Canadians.
Yeah,
that's why. That's why letting them rub up on you.
And I go down.
You're gonna cut around.
Right, but when I go down south, it's soda.
Mm-hmm. You got to be careful up there in Minnesota, Reverend, because soon y'all gonna be start cutting round pieces of ham and calling them bacon. That won't do it all.
Well, no. If we keep doing what we're doing now, and we keep putting certain people in office, I'm just saying, you can get mad at me if you want to, there won't be no more pork in Minnesota. I'm just saying.
Oh wow!
I'm just saying. I'm gonna put it out there. You can get mad at me, get upset if you want to, but the truth is the
You have
truth.
1 minute left.
The truth is the truth.
It's like that, huh? Yeah. I suspect that may be the factor to galvanize people into action. You turn the can a ham sandwich. Bacon's like, oh no,
no more bacon bits on the salad. No.
No, it's going now.
Yeah. So
I think I just heard a minute, man.
Yeah, you want to log out and come back, and then we'll close it down.
Yes, sir.
Sounds like a deal, bro.
All right, man.
The caller has hung up.
All right, y'all. Again, I just want to thank everybody. Oh, holy smoke, man! The room filled up. I just want to thank everybody for coming out and hanging out with us tonight. We're having a Dexter Sunday is what we do. We just have a conversation with him and give him an opportunity to let us know how his week has been, and then we talk about a couple of subjects and things that's out there that's hot, and go over everything. And again, like I said, we had a special guest with us tonight, and I thank her very much for coming and hanging out with us. Mel is on the other end of everything here. But we've had once again an awesome time. Again, a lot of people up hanging out with us, which is always a good thing. And for those who don't know, like we said, this is Dexter Taylor. And if you want to know his story, if you go on my page or if you go on Carl's page, Carl's been putting a lot of information out there. Carl is URA smart ass _Carl. You can definitely go to his page. You can definitely go to his page, and he's putting out a lot of information about Dexter. Another thing, if I don't know if Carl, hey Carl, do you have a GoFundMe or anything like that maybe people, if they want to send you some money to help pay for Dexter phone calls?
Yeah, I got a cash app on my Twitter profile. Click the top right hand corner. You should see what looks like dollar sign symbols or like a dollar symbol.
Hold on, let me bounce.
I'll throw it up on the stream as a screenshot to let people know where to donate.
Okay, all right. So Carl's going to put that up there because like I said, we enjoy talking to Dexter. We enjoy having this here conversation. But I come to find out, I didn't know, but now I do know that the phone calls are not free. So, ma'am and sir, if you don't mind helping us out, this thing that I'm on right now, I pay for it every year. I'm not asking for any money for that, but I want to make sure that we can keep talking to Dexter, and it costs a little bit of money. Or what you can do is also, Dexter, what is your give us your credentials.
Well, you mean my Twitter ID is Future Radio Cast.
Future Radio Cast. And do we have you have a website?
Well, yes, I have www.futurerad.io. I'm not sure if the site is still up. It's been a while, and we've had some problems logging into some of my accounts. This looks like AT&T. AT&T seems to memory hold my telephone account. So we've had trouble getting in and doing routine maintenance and things like that. But yeah, you have to see if www.futurerad.io is still up. That's the Foundationist Society website.
Okay.
And there you can find the Foundationist Manifesto and some other goodies from my earlier podcasting days. People can also go to the Infinite Jigsaw podcast on YouTube. That is my friend Danny Duran from the UK. He and I did a 10-part series on the Foundationist Manifesto, and you might find that interesting listening as well. And finally, I have a link tree. My link tree ID is carbon_Mike. So if you know about link tree, just linktree/carbon_Mike.
Yeah, I shared it in my tweet. Tonight's episode, and I also shared the website.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, we've got and of course my music, my music, and some of my conversations even are on my SoundCloud. It's Switching Yard Sounds. If you go to SoundCloud, just search for Switching Yard Sounds, and you should find it there.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. Well, Carl did put that out there, so you guys can go to his website to Carl's Twitter
page,
and
profile.
If you don't mind clicking on that, and $2-3, man, we'll definitely appreciate that, and we can keep this going as much as we can possibly to give Dexter an opportunity to come on and hang out with us and things of that sort, which is always cool. I mean, we hit the number again tonight. We got 1,600 people in here tonight. On here, almost 1,650 that we got in here tonight, and we again appreciate each and every one of you for coming on. So what I'm going to do is like we always do. Hey, Mel, if you want to start off and give us some closing words, we'll definitely appreciate it.
Yes, sir. I thank all of you for having me on. I really appreciate it and enjoyed it. Y'all stay up too late. It's kind of bad.
We do. Yeah. Night owls up in here.
Yeah, I can't keep up. But Reverend, thank you for everything you're doing. I know you're trying to hold it down up there, and things are getting crazy. Dexter, always a pleasure, sir. I appreciate you. Carl, thank you for connecting us, and I hope everybody has a good night.
All righty. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mel.
Go ahead,
Appreciate
Dex.
you.
You're on.
Well, first of all, I'd like to wish a happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. God bless you. You keep the world going,
Right.
and yeah, that's it's real. Mothers are aware of that. And of course, I'd like to thank all the listeners, all the supporters, everyone who's tunes in and listens in the air and maybe types in a comment, even what have you. It's like, yeah, thank you. God bless you all. And of course, especially our two-way supporters, the people who are actively on side with my case and who are out there trying to spread the word on what's happening. I just couldn't be. Yeah, I couldn't be luckier. I couldn't be more blessed. I couldn't be more highly favored than to be in the company of all these people. Many of whom have never met me face to face, but who've kind of taken up the cause as their own, and that's prison can be a dreary and dismal and depressing place, but it really always kind of lifts my spirit to know that I'm rolling with the best, that I'm rolling with that absolute best. I know all the best people, so thank you, and God bless you all, and hopefully sooner than later we will win, and and y'all get to breathe free air again, and we'll have even more talks and spaces and podcasts and so on and so forth. And it'll be wonderful.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah,
Yes,
that's
sir.
it.
Well, again, Des, we appreciate you. First off, we always want to make sure you understand that, and I'm sure a lot of these people. CJ said, "God bless you, Dexter." A lot of these people who come and hang out with us on a Sunday when they can be doing some of everything else, but yet here they are giving you their ear to hear you speak. They're not here because of me. Believe that me. Because I'm on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I don't get 1,600 people listening to my podcast. So I know they not here for me. Yeah, that's why I shut my mouth and let you talk. And happy Mother's Day to you, Mel. I hope you had an awesome day. See, I had a free day today because what I did is throughout my boys' life, I taught them how to treat their mom on Mother's Day. So when Mother's Day roll around, they come get her and go do exactly what I've taught them to do. So I got a whole free day. I get Mother's Day roll around. I like I told my boys, she's not my mother. My mother's in North Carolina. I take care of her. I don't take care of your mother no more. That's your job. You're young adults now. This is and every year they come over, they get her, they take her wherever, they do what I don't ask. It's not my only thing I tell them is make sure she's happy. That's it. Other than that, I ain't got nothing to do. I ain't got nothing to do with it. I went up to Lowe's today and bought all my plants. I probably bought about $150 worth of plants that I'm going to be out there planting. So that's what I got to do today. But to all the moms out there, again, happy Mother's Day. And thank you for all that you do. Because I know if my wife was not the rock of my family, me and the boys would be in some serious trouble, bro. Serious problem. So I thank her. Katie said, so glad to be here with you, preacher and man of God. Thank you very much. Bless you and bless Dexter Taylor also, she said. Well, bless you too, Katie. We thank you guys again so much for hanging out with us. Thank everybody for being here. Again, you can go to Carl's page. Carl, you want to close us out tonight? Is Carl still with us? Is he bouncing?
I'm still.
You got the little one with you, or?
Yeah, I got him with me. We heading out from the in-laws house and heading back home. But I did want to say a few things. Y'all could probably hear them in the background. Say a few things. First and foremost, I want to thank all the mothers out there, including my own, who, resting in peace right now. I want to also shout out to my wife. It's her first Mother's Day.
Yeah.
I took care of her nicely, for those who's wondering.
Good job.
She got all the amenities that she deserves, including a massage, pedicure,
look at
manicure.
You. Showing off.
And buy her favorite perfume. So there's that. Also, I wish your mother a happy Mother's Day too, Dexter. Made sure I gave her a text and let her know that we're thinking of her during this time while you're currently incarcerated. Shout out to Mel, who is one of the backbones of the Second Amendment movement. I appreciate all that she does. I also want to send a shout out to our family, our Second Amendment family, our Dexter Taylor family, who has been helping me with paying for calls, helping me get the word out there. So shout out to Casey, Joe Lanu, Corey, Fizzy, and everybody that's okay, well, man. It's all right. Everybody else.
Crystal.
Oh yeah, and Crystal. Can't forget Crystal.
Pineapple pizza.
I want to say these people are are the backbone of this movement when it comes to Dexter Taylor, including you, Reverend Till. We've all been doing our best to try to let everybody know about Dexter Taylor. And also shout out to Liberty Doll, who I spoke with via DMs, and you don't know, she's made 2 videos about Dexter. She's going to be making a 3rd one once I'm able to work out the logistics and get her and Dexter talking together. So, again, this movement won't go anywhere without the word, putting the word out there. So even if you can't donate any money, donate your time, get the word out there, get the word out to the necessary people, people in government, people in New York, people around the country. So that's pretty much it. Once again, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, including my beautiful one.
There you go. You say happy Mother's Day to her for us also, there, Mr. Man, and it sounds like you did an awesome job, like you're supposed to, on her first Mother's Day. Good. I have to give you those. Got to give you those, man. Awesome. So let's go this route. Dexter, let's get you through the week. Father, we come to you first and foremost just to say thank you. Father, we thank you for all that you have done and the things that we don't even realize that you do sometimes. Father, thank you for a beautiful day, no matter if we was going through something or not. But we realize that you gave us the opportunity to get up. And we thank you for your grace and your mercy on top of that. Father, we ask you to look down on Dexter here right now. We ask you to hold him in your bosom, Father. We ask you to make sure that nothing happens to this man. We realize and understand that this man is going through hell for no reason at all. And only you, Father, knows the back end of what's going to be happening with Dexter. But we also realize that he's in your hands, Father, and we look to you to keep him safe, keep him warm, to keep his mind regulated, and to keep his heart and his spirit up, Father. We ask that in Jesus' mighty name. And all said, amen, amen, and amen. So again, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, again, Mel, thank you very much for hanging out with us. We definitely appreciate you. Thank you very much, Carl. And again, to you, Dexter, you have a good week. Again, if you want to donate for these help us with these phone calls, go to Carl's page. Like I said, $2, $3, $4. It helps. Trust me when I say that. It all helps for us to keep doing this. This is a grassroots situation that we got here. I mean, we everybody that's doing something to try to do our best to get this man out of jail. We're just normal, everyday people. We ain't nobody special here, and ain't nobody got this here clout. They're here to do this and do that. But what we ask you to do is to take your time and look into Dexter's situation, and then you make the call for yourself. And if you believe like we believe, and we're not pushing anything on you, but if you believe what we believe and we understand about his situation, Dexter Taylor should not be in prison. But he's in prison because of the Democratic Party. Period, point blank. Let's call it the way it is. You can sit there and go, "Oh, Rev, don't make it political." No, it is political with me.
It's political.
Because the man shouldn't be where he's at. No ifs, ands, or buts. So what we ask each of you all to do is who do we need to write to real quick, Dexter?
Well, the best person to write to in government at this point would be Harmeet Dillon. HARMEET DHILLON.
Harmeet.
That's the best person to write to.
Dillon. Okay.
She is the head of the Justice Department's Civil Rights Task Force, which is really a kind of a historic task force. I can't remember anything like this ever happening under any American president. They're going around looking into violations of Second Amendment rights as civil rights. So they get it. And they're actually looking into states they're actually they're looking at California right now, asking a lot of tough questions about what's going on there, and so we hope and pray that they sooner than later get to New York State, and start asking tough questions about equal protection under the law, and why New York State is locking people up, is law-abiding citizens up, by the way, for having firearms in their home, or for manufacturing firearms in their homes. So she's probably the best person to write to in government. I would also say, if you know some conservative influencers, write to them, because, again, the more influencers I talk to, the more strong two-way people I talk to, the more we get to spread the word. Reach out to any podcasters who might be in your circle. If you're following someone and maybe they followed you back or what have you,
Joe Rogan.
Means reach out. Joe Rogan's that's a Hail Mary pass.
Well, hey, I'm throwing it tonight. We need Joe Rogan.
You're swinging for the bleachers.
I'm swinging for the bleachers, brother. Joe Rogan. Everybody, all 17,000 people here. 1,700 people here.
1,700.
I need you.
Yeah.
I need you to hit Joe Rogan up, and also Pam Bondi. Don't forget about that, Pam Bondi. Please, ma'am and sir. Like I said, if you sit there and say, well, I don't know much about this here, I can't give my money, but I can send an email. Thank you. Appreciate you. Please, ma'am and sir, do that.
Exactly.
But other than that, hey, y'all have an awesome week, and we will more than likely see you on next Sunday. Peace, fam.
Sounds good.
We out. Y'all have a good one. Bye-bye now.
Take care, y'all. All right. Bye.